So today we'll be talking about lateral metroplasty, whether is it really required or is it a boon, and how to proceed with it. So I'm Dr. Rohan Krishnakumar and I'll try to take you through this. So first and foremost, let's start with, does size really matter? Does the place where the pregnancy stays really matter? We have seen in many studies that embryos fail to implant if the uterine environment is not permissive. It's a prerequisite for attaining and achieving a term pregnancy, and uterine canalization defects. Sorry, hello, can I be heard?
Yes, yes, please continue, sir.
Yeah, I'm so sorry. There's a small, I think the power has gone. So, uh, yeah, the uterine canalization defects may be associated with infertility, recurrent abortion, and many obstetric complications. First of all, let's understand what is the term dysmorphic uterus. It's confusing, it's underestimated and misdiagnosed. The SJ and ESG have tried to make it simple recently. They have divided into three subgroups, that is 1A, 1B, and 1C of the class 1 uterine anomalies. Now, what is a T-shaped uterus? It is one with a narrow uterine cavity due to thickened lateral walls, where the corpus is 2/3 and the cervix is 1/3. The infantile uterus is exactly opposite, wherein the corpus is smaller and the cervix is larger. And the other type of T-shape, the third type, is the one which is associated with a septum. It includes all three deformities and in the uterine cavity. So here you can see the muscle tissue of the uterus walls, which have constriction rings and the proximal uterine segment. So why is it so important? You can see that a large number of first trimester abortions and preterm deliveries, almost 47 and 21%, are attributed to these deformities. The newer tools are helping us find them faster. There is 3D ultrasound, hysteroscopic surgery, miniature instruments, excellent bipolar energy sources, and even outpatient procedures, as we just heard in the previous talk. Now, this is how an HSG of a T-shaped uterus looks like. Similar picture on a 3D ultrasound, which gives the exact mapping. This, the first image is of a T-shape. The other one is a corrected image. So how do we make things simple? Use a nice 30 degrees rigid hysteroscope, a vaginoscopic method, again enlisted very beautiful in the previous talk. Make longitudinal incisions on the isthmic area laterally. And if it's a type 1C anomaly, then correct the subseptum along with the T-shaped uterus in the same sitting. So where are the indications? Primary infertility of a long duration, repeated miscarriages, or unexplained infertility. Now, just seeing the video here, we can see there was a small subseptum and the subseptum has been resected. Now, going to the lateral walls, the way to identify that it requires a lateral metroplasty is when you can't see both the ostia. Both ostia are deep seated. That's one of the way to identify that a lateral metroplasty needs to be done. The technique is fairly simple, as stated earlier, that just make lateral incisions over the lateral wall, longitudinal incisions over the lateral wall. Try to cut the fibers in a way that you can see the ostia. Here you can see that the scissors, the lateral wall is pretty thick. It's a bit of a learning curve to do the lateral metroplasty easily. Once you see the muscle fibers are cut, you can see the uterine cavity expanding as well as the ostia being seen there. Similarly, proceed towards the other side. If you can see, the fixed blade of the scissors is tried to be pushed into the lateral wall initially, and then the metroplasty is carried out. That gives a good support. The ideal technique would be to push the fixed blade in and try not to remove it. Try to finish the entire length in one go. So usually the most challenging part is the one at the isthmocervical junction. That is the part which is most difficult to cut. It is hard. And now you can see a good cavity has been restored. Coming to a similar second procedure, again where scissors are used as a cold energy source so that there's no damage to the endometrium. Here again, you can see that the ostia are deep seated. There's no septum, but both the lateral walls are a little convergent. At the level of the internal os, you can't see both the ostia. So then a lateral metroplasty was decided. Here you can see the fixed blade is fixed in the lateral wall and a metroplasty is carried out. Sometimes it is better to use chairs which have wheels on it, that is chairs with coasters, while performing hysteroscopy, so that you can actually move around the entire length to adjust your hands. So that gives a good leverage in lateral metroplasty. So the entire range of motion is better used. There again, once the metroplasty is completed, both the ostia are visible. It's not necessary always to use the scissors. Sometimes a miniature resectoscope can also be used, as in this case. You can see we are just withdrawing the telescope from one of the canals. There is a large septum also associated. Here you can see both the cervical, both the uterine canals here. She was a case of recurrent pregnancy loss with a type 1C anomaly, that is a septum and lateral wall convergence. Here we used a Gubini's resectoscope with a Collins knife. Minimum use of energy helps to cut these thick muscular septum easily, wherein it becomes a little bit difficult with the scissors due to the bleeding, but of course scissors can be used and must be preferred. Here you can see that the septum is being slowly cut till the level of the fundus to see both the ostia in line. Very minimal energy is used to resect the septum. There you can see that the septum is almost done. Now attention turns towards the convergent lateral walls. So this metroplasty is much faster with a bipolar resectoscope. The advantages of this miniature resectoscope is that cervical dilatation is not required even to perform resectoscopy. So this can be very easily used in infertile patients. It's a very handy instrument to have in your armamentarium. Once the left wall is done, the minor convergence of the right wall is tackled. Thus, what are the outcomes? Why is it a boon? It helps achieve higher rates of clinical pregnancy and live births. There's a tenfold increase in the term delivery rates. There's increase in the live births. There's reduced miscarriages and a very high spontaneous pregnancy rates. Even those patients initially who are for ART, undergoing some form of infertility treatment or IUI or IVF, after correction of these metroplasties, sometimes have a very high rate of spontaneous pregnancy, as found by this study by Bertocci and et al. Now, what are the complications that we fear? Will it lead to cervical incompetence? It has been found that there's no increase in the risk of cervical incompetence than the normal population, that is just about 5.5%. There's a slight increased risk of retained placenta and adhesion of the RPOCs. Relook hysteroscopy may be required in some cases where a big septum has been resected in order to check for any adhesions and recorrections. So I've just kept this slide, it's a very busy slide, but just keep your attention on this. Very high clinical pregnancy rates in both groups of infertility as well as repeated pregnancy losses. Very high live birth rates, reduced miscarriages, and very high spontaneous pregnancy rates. So that's what has been shown in this most recent study of, I think, 2019, published this year in the JMIC.
Sir, sorry to interrupt, sir. 1 minute left.
Yeah, I'm done. So I would just like to conclude by inviting everyone for this next academic extravaganza. And I would thanks a lot for the entire IAG team and Sunita ma'am for this wonderful opportunity.